Hey everybody, Nick here, and today let's do some disassembly and maintenance on this little guy right here. This is the Benchmade Knives Mini-Bugout. Very interesting little piece. And actually, this is not the first time I've disassembled this knife. When it first came from the factory, it actually came with substantial blade play. It came without a terribly good action, and the centering was way off. Now, actually, I should have shown you that ahead of time, but centering is pretty much dead on now, and the action is pretty damn sweet. So, but that was after an initial assembly there, or disassembly, I suppose. So, do keep that in mind, but that's our goal for all of this, and we're going to go on ahead and, yeah, I'll treat this as a partial, what I'll do is, first off, I'll show you exactly, how this guy looks on the inside, because that's something a lot of folks are interested in. Because you can do everything that you need to do here in the state that all you really need to do for an axis lock knife is to remove the pivot there. Push the pivot out, and then you're golden, right? You don't need to do anything else. You can clean off the inside, and I'll show you how to do that later on. But in the name of informativity, just so you can kind of see the construction of the guy, what I am going to go ahead and do is I'm going to pop off this liner on this side only. There's really not a lot of need to remove everything, to take the whole knife apart. In practice, it never ends up winning you much because, well, frankly, I mean, there's nothing further that you can do. It's not like it's winning you a great deal. But I am going to show you this just in the name of, so you can see what's going on. Drop that out of there. This is how the mechanism actually works. This is the inside of the knife. We can see here that the other side of this just contains this. And so the axis lock is held by this omega spring in place here, and then it slides back and forth like this throughout there, and then it interacts with the tang of the blade, which comes in here like so. And then when I pull the axis lock back, it allows it. So this is the amount of liner in there. That's how this knife is so damn lightweight. And it is indeed damn lightweight. So let me put this guy back together. I'll go ahead and put the handle back together. That way you see sort of my recommended approach for actually disassembling the thing. Because you don't ever need to do that. The only reason I did that right there is... or at least very seldom would you need to do that. Only reason I did that right there was just to show... the construction, etc. All right, let's go ahead and pop these guys in. And if you're ever curious about the tools I'm using for any part of this process, go ahead and check out nickshabazz.com/tools, where I talk about how, all of these things that I'm using. Let's go ahead and put this in here. I'm using a little bit of thread locker on these screws here, just because I don't want these coming loose, because there's no real need for them to come loose. This, until I swap in some other scales, and I'm probably going to try and do that, actually. Got a set of carbon fiber scales coming in from, I believe, Rogue Blade Works that I want to check out on this guy. But for the most part, you should never actually need to do this. You can keep this whole thing as one consistent unit, and then just do the maintenance as follows. Go ahead and take out a little cloth swatch here, and do a little bit of rubbing alcohol onto it. That'll allow me to get onto the blade here and clean this off a little. Like I said, this guy has actually seen some carry. I'm actually doing this disassembly. The first disassembly I did, actually, I didn't do on camera just because I honestly wasn't feeling it. There were days... Look, there are days when you feel like going on camera, and there are days when you don't. I wasn't having a great day, so to speak, a little down in the dumps, so to speak, a high stress level, etc. And I decided, you know what, I need to get this knife cleaned out such that I can carry it a little bit for review, but I don't feel like making a full video of it today, so I just popped it open, did that real quick. It's actually a little cathartic sometimes to do it that way. It's not uncathartic to do an actual video, right? But, there can be a little bit of a joy there. That can add a little something to my day. So I've cleaned off the washers here. I've cleaned off the blade itself, and I cleaned off using the inside of this guy. Just tried to remove any gunk from the inside of here. Now, this right here is the tricky part. This part here is what makes this difficult. What I want to do is effectively make a sandwich whereby the blade is inside these two washers, and then I need to slide this whole package into here and get everything properly aligned. That is one of those easier said than done things. But first, let me show you a quick detail here. If we take a look at the actual washer, what we can see is that there are actually two sides to this guy. One of the sides is entirely sort of a machine finish, if you will. Oh, come on, people. Don't fight me here. There we go. You can see one half of the washer. Is this the right one? Yeah. Doesn't have much in the way of wear. Doesn't have much in the way of shiny spot. This guy does. This washer is the one that should face the blade itself. Similarly, on this one here, we have some nice polished surfaces, which indicate that the blade is rotating against the washer. We have some unpolished surfaces over there. Some people go as far as to polish the washers. In this case, it doesn't need it, so I'm not going to bother. But that's the thing. Oh, I should also clean off the pivot real quick. Just make sure that any lubrication that's left on there is cleaned off. Now, we're going to put everything back together. What I'm going to use here is some knife pivot lube. I like this stuff, actually, a fair amount on washer actions. I think it's just a little bit nicer in that way. So I'm going to put just a little bit of it on there. And then I'm actually going to use the washer itself. I'm using the KPL here to attach the washer to the blade. Okay, that was a little much. What I'm actually going to do then is to use this little stick here as an oiler, and I'm just going to break the tension on the oil and bring some of it down into the pivot area. That way I am greasing the pivot there, and that goes up inside of there. Good. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop this other washer into place here. And again, just using that to spread it around. Now what I can actually do is I can hold this blade, and the washers are on there, and I can hopefully, if I've got steady enough hands, I'm playing Operation over here. That's a perhaps very American sort of reference, but my goal here is just to pop this guy into the handle. What I can also do is put my fingers in such a position that they kind of brace the washers until I get it all the way through. That way, now what I can do is just try and slide this guy in very gently, so I can, and see, the washers are kind of caught up. What I'm trying to fight here is having the washers slide all the way off. And in fact, the bottom one has. That's not great. So what I'm going to try and do here is just kind of push the blade a little further. Nah, I can't do it. So I'm going to use this little oiler here. You can see here, I'm trying to get the washers in place here. There we go. Beautiful. So I'm going to use this little oiler here to hold everything in place. And then hopefully what I have here are the brass washers in the proper positioning here. Yeah, they are. Great. And that'll allow me to put the pivot the rest of the way through. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put a little lubrication on the pivot. In this case, although it's, a good idea for the action of the knife generally, a part of the reason that I'm doing that as well is just so it's easier to slide this pivot through, because that's going to be important. Now, lifting this very carefully, because right now the blade could fall out very easily, I need to get this guy in position. You'll see that the pivot itself is D-shaped, right? There's kind of a D shape to it. It's not entirely circular. We can see here that the D-shape end faces upwards. And it's important to make sure, I'll hold on to the blade for a second here, just to make sure it doesn't go flying everywhere. And already I'm starting to lose my washer positioning. This is a little bit of a touchy process here, so I'll push the washer back into place there. My goal here is to get the pivot started, to kind of get it pushed up into this area here. And hopefully, if I've got everything aligned properly, I'll be able to get one single snap in there as I get this through. No, it's still rotating. There we go. You didn't hear it, but I felt it. I was able to get this pivot snapped into place. So it is now at the point where I could, in theory, if all the holes are aligned, push this guy through. All the holes, however, are not aligned. In fact, what I need to do in order to align all the holes is to pull the axis lock back. I'm going to use my thumb here and pull that back at the same time that I apply a little bit of pressure with my index finger. Now, I'm noticing as I look in through here, and again, let me zoom in a little bit. Maybe you can get a better sense. Right here, this little half moon there is the washer itself. The washer was not in correct alignment. So, oh yeah. What I've been doing there, let me back this up just a second there, now that we're out of the danger zone, and explain exactly what happened there. I was applying a constant pressure to this back side of this little pivot here. That allowed me to reposition the washer using this little watch spring bar tool here. And then when the washer was in the right position, because I had a constant pressure on there, the pivot was able to slip through. And because I was holding the blade in the right position as well, then once it slid through the washer, it was able to slide through the blade. And because the top washer there was also in the correct position, it slid the rest of the way home. And now the knife pivot is in place. And in fact, we can function test the knife, and we see here that it works just fine. Final step here is going to be to reinstall the pivot. Again, I'll use a little thread locker on this guy. because I do want to get everything kind of dialed in and then keep it there, right? So I'll put some thread locker on here and then just slide this into place. The goal here is going to be to create an action. Well, not create, but to have the action such that it... Thinking this might be T9 secretly, or maybe even T10. Yeah, it is T10. Either way, it worked. But my goal here is to make sure that everything is sort of tight enough that there's no blade play, that the blade doesn't waggle back and forth in either direction. Oh, yeah, let me zoom you back out a little. But also that it's not so tight that the action is bad. Did I really get that on the first go? There's a little play there, so let me tighten this down just a little tiny bit further. Little tiny turns is sometimes all it takes. No, little play. All right, tighten a little more. Okay, now it's gotten a little too over tight. No play, though. So I'm going to see if I can fiddle just the slightest bit and rotate. And sometimes that's all it takes. No play. So I'll give it just a little tiny bit more, hoping to smooth out that action a little bit, because I know I found that good home for it previously. Oh, yeah. No play. Beautiful. There we go. So that is the Mini-Bugout here. Very, very interesting little piece, particularly if you like a small knife, because this guy is a small knife. But I'm going to throw this guy in the pocket, give it a little bit more carry, and mostly I'm going to, well, enjoy this. Oh, by the way, centering is pretty much dead on. The blade grind is a little or the cutting edge is a little asymmetrical there, so that's making it look funky. But no play, centering's good. One other thing I'll actually highlight that you can do is actually put a little tiny dab of lubricant on the back of the blade right here. What that'll do is allow the axis lock to slide all the way onto the top of the blade there. Because as you can see here, this axis lock is going to move forward onto the blade. And if it can't slide all the way forward, sometimes that'll lead to a little bit of vertical play as it seats itself up there. So there we go. Beautiful. That's gorgeous. Anyways, there you go. Hope you found this interesting. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.